Anyway, I want to welcome you to the 20th annual Wall Street Comes to Washington conference. I'm Paul Ginsburg, professor at the Price School at University of Southern California and director of public policy at the Schaefer Center for Health Policy and Economics at the university. 20 years ago, shortly after founding the Center for Studying Health System Change, I perceived that federal policymakers knew very little about healthcare markets and that they could make wiser decisions if they were better informed. And this led to the large site visit projects that most of you are familiar with from HSE, and it also led to this conference, which was designed to elicit from Wall Street equity and bond analysts their perspective on healthcare markets that are relevant to policymaking. And both the site visits and this conference have turned out to be long-term endeavors. And I'm delighted that the Jane Koskinas-Ted Giovannis Foundation for Health and Policy recognizes the value of this conference by sponsoring the event for the third year. Through research and projects like this conference, the JKTG Foundation hopes to foster discussion about cost reduction, expanding access to care, and improving quality. As I've already said, the purpose is to give the Washington health policy community insights into market developments that are relevant to policy through a different source of information than we usually see, namely the equity and bond analysts. And equity analysts advise investors about how profitable different publicly traded companies will be. And bond analysts advise investors on the likelihood of debt repayment of both for-profit and not-for-profit companies. And in healthcare, much of the work of the debt analysts is on not-for-profit companies. Along with a thorough understanding of healthcare markets and the companies they follow, analysts closely follow public policy, which they see often having important implications for these companies. And today is really an opportunity for the equity and bond analysts to take a break from assessing the outlook for profitability or solvency of companies and bring their understanding of market forces to bear on key health policy questions. Now, the format is a roundtable discussion. I have prepared a always too long series of questions that I've shared with the panelists in advance. Someday I ought to go and look at the questions that didn't get asked and see if they should have gotten asked. There'll be two opportunities for audience questions and answers. The first before we take a break at 10:30 and the second before we adjourn at noon. And there are blue question cards in your pocket. And please fill them out and give them to the conference staff member. Or if you want to make sure your question is answered, you can get up to one of the microphones and ask your question. Note that the analysts are not permitted by their employers to answer questions about the outlook for specific companies. A transcript and a webcast of this conference will be posted on the Foundation website later this week. And before you leave today, we'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to fill out the evaluation. It's on a yellow piece of paper in your packet, and leave it on the table outside the meeting room. We have a terrific panel this morning. Most are veterans of previous Wall Street Comes to Washington conferences. That includes Matt Borsch of Goldman Sachs, that side, Jim LeBuhn of Fitch Ratings, and Sheryl Skolnick of Mizuho Securities. And we're delighted to welcome a new panelist, Anna Gupte of Leerink Partners. Since this is the 20th anniversary of the conference, I thought it'd be fun to start off with a few comparisons between 1995 and 2015 in terms of healthcare spending. All of these figures are from the National Health Expenditure accounts. The 1995 numbers are actual spending, and the 2015 numbers are the projections. So total U.S. spending in 1995 was slightly more than $1 trillion, and spending has more than tripled to a projected $3.2 trillion and change. And during the same period, per capita spending grew from $38.26 to $10,125, while healthcare spending as a share of GDP grew from 13.4% to around 18% projected. This year, when looking at broad spending categories, hospital spending has grown from $340 billion annually in 1995 to just over $1 trillion today. Similarly, spending on physician and other clinic services has just about tripled from $222 billion to $640 billion, and spending on prescription drugs has experienced a more than quintuple increase from $59 billion to a projected $328 billion this year.